Great Tuesday, and welcome to the Art of Othering podcast. I'm your host, King, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Rachel. How you feeling this morning, Rachel?
Feeling pretty good. I have my perfect temperature today.
Excellent, excellent. And what would you say your spiritual energy number is this morning?
I am I'm shining at a bright shiny 10.
I join you at a 10, vibrating a love energy. And what's a great thing about that is choosing to be a 10 and then feeling a 10 because you go through a gratitude list of things you're grateful for. And for me, that's what sets the context of why I'm a 10, because I'm grateful for my ability to see, hear, walk, talk, stand, breathe, health, sound, mind, 24 hours to pursue my purpose, my problems that I have in my life, because the problems help me grow, and that's why I gain wisdom. And I'm grateful for the infinite possibilities that today is going to provide. And for when I go through
Yes.
that list, I can be no less than a 10.
Bring on the adventures, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, how's your week been? What's interesting in your life?
What's interesting? I am learning a new energy that has been injected into my body, quite literally. Um, for those who don't know, I'm on a cancer journey, or an adventure, maybe. Um, and I've entered into some conventional therapies. One is chemo, which was interesting to um, find a path through. And then now, this past week, I've been introduced to immunotherapy. And I'm a very sensitive person as far as the energetics of my body. So this is a new energy in my body, and it's interesting, we'll say. I haven't quite put words to it. There's new feels, new sensations, and something that I've been recognizing is that I don't have words to really share what it feels like because I've never felt this way. And my partner asks me, what do you feel like? How are you feeling? I'm like, I don't have the words to describe that. It's something I don't know. I still have to learn ways to articulate it. And I think that applies to everyone with everything. If it's something new in your life, then you're finding a new way to express it. And I think oftentimes when people are struggling to find a way to express something or to even come to an understanding of something in their life, there can be a lot of chaos and upheaval until it comes to a place of understanding and settling. I hope that made sense. I think it did.
No, it absolutely made sense. And like I said, that just shows the inspiration of where your mind needs to be. That's what I gained from that. Your thoughts need to be in order to deal with the journey that you're going to have to go through. And the journeys are, I believe, make you stronger as a result. Not that all the journeys are going to be fun, but how interesting would life be if all the journeys were fun? There
I
has
think
to
they're
be. Go ahead.
No, I think they're as fun as we make them. I think our minds are really powerful, and we've trained them, or they have been trained
Mm.
oftentimes in a way of unawareness. And we've been taught good, bad. This is good. This is bad. Where it doesn't have to be that way, and we can retrain our minds differently so that it doesn't end up being that way with such hard edges. Um, and that's the other thing I've been playing with all of this is how incredibly powerful my mind is. Um, and just this morning, I wanted to share this. This morning, I came across a writing about a man, and now I can't remember his name. Kuta. It was a French name, anyway. And he was a doctor in France, and he he gave people an affirmation, and he gave them a piece of string, and they asked them to tie 20 knots in the piece of string. And every morning he asked them to take out their string, and every night he asked them to take out their string before bed and say the affirmation. And the affirmation was, I wrote it down: every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. And he said, just do it, matter of fact. Don't put any emotion into it. Don't put any intention into it. Just do it. And it just changed people's thought process and how hard edged they were. It softened their ability to navigate the day. And it cured many people of some pretty serious illnesses, supposedly. I don't have the data on that, but it just got me thinking about how incredibly powerful our minds are, and that we just barely tap into it.
You know, I love that. And I've heard it so many times in my life because I've listened to the audiobook version of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he cites that very poem in there. So I've listened to the audiobook many, many times. And every time I hear it, I hear that poem. So when you're saying it, I'm imagining, because he talks about the reason he recited that poem was a gentleman came into his shop right before he was about to close. He had like a storefront where he provided counseling, and he came in and said he was about to kill himself. And he said the man told him that he no longer understood his identity, who he was, and he had lost his wife, and nothing else made sense. So he's ready to go jump in Lake Michigan. And so Napoleon Hill said he takes him. So they want to introduce you to the one person that can change your life. So before you kill yourself, I want you to meet him. So the guy said, really? There's somebody I need to meet that can change my life? He said, absolutely, follow me. And he said he took him around the corner and took him to this cloth that was covering a doorway. And then he removed the cloth, and it was a giant mirror. So this is a man that can change your life. He's right there. Yeah. And if you allow him to, and then he said, if you say this poem, that's when he said, say the poem. So that's just deeply ingrained in my memories. Many times I've heard you can grow rich.
And you sharing that story jarred my memory to recall that he was Napoleon Hill was part of the article that I was reading about this man. Of course, I can't remember the man, but yeah, his name came up. So that in itself, I think that the more we connect to the power of ourselves, the more we can connect to each other, which is what we just did. I was reading an article this morning, and it's something that it's one of your favorites that you just talked about, Napoleon Hill, and it just happens to be that. And you had sent me, I think it was last Friday, you had sent me a frequency, and I call it heart art that you send me, because you speak from your heart and you send me these beautiful things about identity and how important it is to understand your identity, not to necessarily latch onto it or to harden down on it, but to understand it and what that actually means to you and how you can use it to navigate whatever it is you're going through.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, gratitude for mentioning that and sharing that. And I'm curious, and this is live, what are your thoughts when you heard that song, that frequency?
My thoughts went to the dualistic world that we live in, and how we are we're kind of pushed to mold our minds into a state of choosing instead of a state of just ising, choosing right or wrong, bad or good, happy or sad, instead of sitting back like a child does. You know, a child doesn't know something that's right or wrong until they're taught this is right or wrong. And and to sit back and just see the world and experience it and just be in awe of it, no matter what it is, or to just be curious about it. And I think that goes in hand in hand to what we're doing here with the art of othering. You know, is it an art? Yeah, it is an art, I think, because just like duality, it can go both ways. We can other something to learn from it and utilize it as a tool, or we can other something and make it and create it into a villain. And it's just understanding, I think, that art of othering, living in a world where everything is duality and dualistic, that the more we understand it, the more we can come to a safer space to live within ourselves. I'm not talking about like safe space on the street or safe space in your home, but in yourself. And I saw your identity come up on the screen. I would love if you would play that maybe, or even a segment of it for people to hear. I love your frequencies.
Well, thank you. Well, this is the image of it, and I will play it in a second because I wanted to first respond and to what you said, because I believe that's so important. That I think a lot of our issues that we have in our life is because of our identity and how it's been programmed in us teaches us to other, and that's the very thing is saying this is who you are and everybody else that's different is an other. And so I came up with an idea based off identity because it's so important now to everybody and it's used so much in today's zeitgeist, normal conversations, the media that everybody's pushing and talking is always at one of these identities in one form or fashion. And everybody's so conditioned to see certain identities and symbols for a particular person. That identity, once you accept it, everybody understands how to receive you and how to treat you and how to talk to you because you've accepted identity by wearing these logos, these badges of honor that reflect your identity, whether it's politically, whether it's racial, whether it's your religious dogma, whether it's your citizenship, whether it's your sexual orientation. So I had an idea to say, I wonder, because everybody knows what a person wearing just one of these, what they're communicating who they are, they just have one of these symbols on. I said I would be curious to know if a person walked down the street that had all these symbols on, what do they communicate? And how do you read them? It was to scramble most people's minds because now you're not taught to think that way. You're taught to be, that's like that red pill in the Matrix. It's going to make you say, whoa, Black Lives Matter and MAGA and the rainbow belt. You know, that's those images don't go together. That person can't be thinking that way. And so I'm curious to know. I will play the song. I'm just curious to know when you see that image, that's what comes to mind in your mind. Just
if I were to see someone walking down the street like that, I might actually ask them to stop so I can look at everything, and then just acknowledge maybe to them that I appreciate their statement, that they're, you know, what they're trying to stand for and what they're trying to show, that you can be a label if you want to, or you can be all the labels if you want to. And kind of regardless, you are all the labels. If you're for something, then you're that label. If you're against something, then you're that label. I'm not saying that you are that person or that you even have to be that person. But when you choose these different symbols and you choose to advertise them, it's just like advertising. Like when I was younger, I was like, I'm not wearing that shirt because it says, I don't know, it had a little logo on it, the Lacoste alligator or whatever. And I was like, I'm not wearing that. I don't want to advertise for someone. And it's kind of, to me, it's the same thing. I don't want to advertise for someone, but if I were to see someone with all of these on them, I would be fascinated. I'd be like, this is interesting, and I would want to talk to that person. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, I don't think that there's a need to advertise. And I think that there's times where we might pull in these different labels for different reasons, just like we pull in different kinds of frequencies at different times for different reasons. But I personally don't subscribe to owning a specific symbol or identity, because it's like standing in a river. Even though you're standing still, the river's moving and you can't be in the same river as you entered.
Right.
It's gone past already. So why not just join in the flow?
Absolutely. Well, that takes to me a certain level of getting to vibrating at a higher frequency than the average person is vibrating at.
Maybe I'm just utilizing that frequency in a time where it needs to be utilized. Maybe there's a time for us to vibrate at a lower frequency. Maybe there's a time for us to vibrate at a medium frequency. It's maybe these things are needed. I don't know. I'm not the boss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone has all the answers. I think it comes down to what, for me, it comes down to what you choose to believe should bring you peace, make you a kinder person, and help you stay vibrating in love energy. And if it's doing those three things, then I'm not here to tell anyone their belief system is wrong. But for me, my belief system has me accomplishing those things. Despite others around me, I have peace in my mind and peace in my heart most of the time. And that's what, no one's going to always have it, because we're not human. I mean, we're human. And so we're not perfect. We're going to have obstacles and challenges. But to me, that duality gives us, that experience gives us the wisdom. I don't look at it as negative. I look at it as like living here on the East Coast, we get a change of seasons. I don't look at the fact that winter is coming as negative. I don't look at the snow as negative. It's just an experience. And you just have to adapt and change. When it snows, you put on the appropriate clothing. And when it rains, you put on appropriate clothing. When it's coming in the summer, you put on the appropriate clothing. And we get that blessing of experiencing 4 seasons. That's just how I look at life, is that I'm experiencing life in the same manner. And things that happen, there's always a lesson in it. There's always a blessing in it. And that cause the most impact in my mind, in my life, those things have always had a greater blessing buried behind them by being open to look at that. And so that's just things I just wanted to share. I wanted to bring in Jess is now joining our call, and want to bring her on.
Hi, Jess.
Hi. So good to see you today.
Good to see you.
It's
Good
great
to be seen.
Yes. I'm excited to join, even though I'm joining late. And I'd love to hear what you've already been talking about in the othering.
Well, gratitude for joining us, Jess. It's great to have your presence with us. What's your spiritual engine? We do our check-in.
Yeah, I'm a 10. I am definitely vibrating at the frequency of love. I am tucked among the trees in the forests of Northern California, and there were a couple of baby deer out frolicking in the water. So I'm just totally lit up by this environment. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. We were just building on othering, and just one aspect of the art of othering is identity, and how once you allow yourself to be othered, which is programmed in us daily through our identity, that's going to dictate how you view the world, how you see the world. And so this image here, I brought this image up as an example to say we're so accustomed now that the construct has even programmed us that identities have flags or uniform or even t-shirts, hats, all these things that we can wear to even convey more our identity of just our skin color and things that are not enough. So now I'm going to wear my MAGA hat. This lets you know where I stand on certain issues, how I feel about certain people, right? Without even saying a word. And Black Lives Matter the same. It's going to convey what they believe, their ideology. You see the Democrat, Republican, the rainbow belt. So if a person walked down the street with all these things on, because individually we know separately what that person is sending, their pride, their identity attached to that. But if this person's walking down the street with all these symbols on, what message are they conveying? And it's like a pattern interrupt. For me, it would make, and that's why I wanted to create it. First I wanted to see what AI allowed me to create it. And I was surprised that it did, you know. But then the same token, I'm not attacking any one group. It's not designed to attack anybody at all. If somebody feels attacked, then again, that's the energy that you already are feeling within yourself on your identity. That's the point of being controlled. That you can be triggered by just an image or a word and act in a way that's not in alignment with who you are or who you see yourself as, right? So that's the kind of discussion we're having. And so I'm curious to know, with that context, how would you say, if you saw a person walk down the street or you see this image, what is your thoughts? First thoughts that come to mind.
My thoughts are he's confused.
So you see him as a he. You identify as.
Yeah. I already profiled this being as a short-legged, long arm. I have really profiled. I'm like his. One thing that I have noticed that I haven't noticed prior to today is the background of.
Same.
Yeah, like seeing that world order on the left and then like the more natural order on the right. And yeah, so that's like a whole other background that I'm seeing in addition to him holding all these different points of view. And I mean, it is like a way of seeing fully human, like to be with all of it, to be with it. Like he's fully in it. Right? It's like there's actually no escaping this. It's like I see all the labels and identities and I can even wear them and be in the polarization. But maybe, yeah, that just gives me like a level of mastery to be with the fact that we're in this world that others, but not necessarily identifying as any one of these identities. I don't know if that answers your question, King.
It does. I'm gonna play the songs. I created a song or a frequency signal, is what I call them, about that. Because here's what I believe. I believe that, and there's no judgment, it's just food for people to think about. If you can see yourself wearing any one of these identities proudly, identifying, seeing that through a lens and being triggered when someone talks about it, I believe at any given point in time, you can allow yourself to put on any one of these, depending on how you've been programmed and where your consciousness is at different stages in your life. And that's the thing about being human, is you're going to get to a stage where you're going to question, who told you that you were black, female, white, female, white male? Who told you that you were Christian, Muslim? Did you didn't choose those things yourself. You were told that and told, here's what's expected of you. And then you grew up adapting other identities to go along with that. You know, based on the school you go to, and you're told that your school, you're a tiger now, so that's your identity within your school. You're the tigers. So you're othered all the way through your as you're growing. Your entire journey as a child is being othered, and so how do you expect people to still grow up and have love in their hearts for others when I've been taught to look at everybody who's different from me, from the school to the class? I'm a freshman, you're a senior, other, you're different. You know, so it's always some way of separating us in some context from each other.
Right.
And nothing really unites us as a common activity. That we have to find our own.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's even part.
Oh, am I frozen or is Jess frozen?
No, I think just it's
Okay.
frozen.
I find it interesting, King, two things. One is I was taught, and I was taught this, so this is very, very strong. Right is a masculine, is typically the masculine is the right, and the feminine is the left. And then a few years ago, talking with some people they were indigenous people, they said no, we see that just quite the opposite. And I was like, oh, okay. So in my mind, I deemed it left and right, masculine, feminine. And so because I decided that in my mind, how much of that did my mind, the power of my mind take over the energetics of my own body and my own existence energetically? And then the other thing is the following aspect. Both sides of that picture are following something in the background, and one is following more of a natural path and the other is following more of a man-made path. And I just, when Jess brought up the background, I had never really paid attention to it so much myself either. And I love how right in the center there's this beautiful sacred geometry configuration, pulling it all together, because that's where it is. It's all in the center.
So yeah, you see all the intentionality I put into the picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like most people get caught up with just the image of him. It's like you gotta look beyond him. That's the so it's so many layers to this. That's the point. Look beyond the symbols and see what's really there. And if you are vibrating high enough, I believe that the universe is constantly sending us love signals and a solution to the problems that our ancestors have created. That we're tapped into that through our pineal gland. And I think that the construct calcifies that through its constant reprogramming and transmissions that we're dealing with. You know, that's where they get into whether you get into the 5G controversial or not. The fact that it is true that radio signals are being transmitted at levels that we can't see, and we accept that, and we understand that energy is everything. So how can you think you can create things that's not natural, and start transmitting those signals, those frequencies, and think that it's not going to have impact on things that operate off energy? Just even on the basic level, it has to. Now, whether it's positive or negative, we don't know yet, but there is going to be an impact.
My mom, of all people, helped me with that one, because I was like, oh, this chemical or that chemical or this whatever was being transmitted from the towers or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's all from the earth. I was like, oh, okay. It's all from the earth. I guess then I don't have to have such a hard edge on it. Just be aware of it, navigate it, but it's all from the earth.
Yeah. And adapt. You know, I think it shows how much our bodies can adapt to.
Yeah.
And think how information is coming to us in so many different ways. It's coming to us through these invisible radio signals. It's coming to us through our own intentional choosing of watching streaming services or listening to audiobooks or podcasts. It's coming to us in so many ways into our brain. And unless you have some form of filtering process to decipher which is what's true and what's not true, what's making sense, which did you allow yourself to accept, then your subconscious is going to give you thoughts about it. And the thoughts going to just be, and they're going to be there because information that you have. And it's not necessarily you who's thinking those thoughts. It's also there because they just pop up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's based off our cultural condition, how we were raised, how we were taught to think. It's like if you ever been into, if you've been raised Catholic your whole life, and then if you have to go to the hospital and you go into a Jewish hospital, you're gonna see all the Jewish symbols immediately, and that's what you're gonna notice immediately when you walk in. But everyone else who's going to both hospitals won't notice that at all because they've been used to seeing different imagery represent their identity.
I think different people are designed to be here for different reasons, and maybe not even knowing themselves why they're here. They tend to gravitate towards a certain identity as a result of whatever it is that they're here for. You know, some people are here for spiritual reasons. Some people are here for creative reasons. I guess they're all spiritual, but you know, so people gravitate towards communicating with people. Some people gravitate towards communicating with animals, and others with plants. You know, just to give some examples, and they design their whole lives around that. I just find it interesting, and that's how they're creating their identity. And where did it come from?
Mm-hmm.
And where did these filters come from that they've taken on? Because I don't think that everybody was any, like, for instance, somebody who gravitates towards animals, likely they weren't brought up with a whole bunch of animals, or maybe they were, but if they weren't, or if they weren't even, it wasn't even something in their world as they were younger, so it couldn't have been something that was designed to be a construct for them. And where did it come from? And what if we didn't have filters growing up? Where would we be? What would we be? I don't think my brain can actually fathom that.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have the life that's perfectly designed for each of us. And I agree with that, of like that what we come to identify with is the thing that we actually are working on. For myself, I identified as being motherless. As a child, I kind of walked around with that sign on me that was like, I don't have a mother. It would come up quite often. And it was kind of like an excuse, like, you know, if my homework, if I didn't have someone to help me with my homework, it's like, I don't have a mother. So I could use that identity to my advantage. It was also something that just kind of set me apart. And I would say, I'm not like the other children because I don't have the same family dynamic that they have. But when I look at the learning that I've developed, it's in connection. And so it makes sense to me now that I would choose a path of disconnect so that I can come into that connection. And as I've learned that and I've connected more deeply, I've actually come back into connection with my birth mom. So there is something like on a evolutionary level that thing that you're going through the storm with is your purpose.
Like a magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something that was triggered in me when you were talking, and I know this doesn't relate directly to what you were saying, but I went to an art festival last weekend with my son, and while I was there, I caught myself saying, "Ooh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. I like that. I don't like that." And I was like, no, I caught myself doing it, and I didn't like I didn't like that. So doing it again. And I feel like when I was kind of analyzing it, it's like I was I was solidifying that duality that I live with. Like I was solidifying it by saying, I like this, I don't like this, rather than, wow, that's fascinating. And it may be something that I was more drawn to than the other thing that I was less drawn to. And the less drawn to was fascinating as well, but I was more drawn to the other one. So I tried to, while I was there, we were there for a few hours. And once I caught myself saying, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Or I don't like that. I started to try and say in my mind, this is fascinating. That's fascinating. And I found that I went deeper in some of the art that I was looking at. And I was like, ooh, I wonder where that comes from, or what that artist's mind must have endured in order to get to that space. Or it's just the different thoughts that came of it, instead of me walking through the festival thinking, I like, I don't like, I like, I don't like. So I think that can apply to so many levels of our existence.
Yeah. It's really great because when we can get curious about that thing that we're avoiding, I mean, doesn't that kind of like this whole image that we see here with all the identities? There's been
Right.
some aspect on that you're like, I don't like that. I'm going to avoid that. But what actually shifts when you say that's fascinating?
Mm-hmm.
What shifts? Then you like lean in and explore it.
Yeah.
And see, to me, what that is that you're being the observer. Now you have, as Viktor Frankl talked about, that moment between stimulus and response. You choose intentionally the response you want to have. And see, that's where I'm advocating, is that whatever you choose as your identity, the point is that you choose it and you made that choice yourself, as opposed to it was given to you and you're accepting that. And now you're just operating from what someone else told you. If you choose to be any one of these symbols, then that's your choice. But let it be your choice, and understand that I'm this because I chose this, and this is how it benefits me. This is how it brings me peace. This is how it brings me joy. This is how I choose to be in this world and have the world see me as. And I'm comfortable doing that. Because the worst thing you can do is argue with somebody about their identity, right? It's not going to go well. And that's what we see. And then we've been taught and ingrained in our beings, like even to this point where someone can call a white person, calls another black person the N-word. Black people have been taught how to deal with that. I mean, that's to deal with that violently and quickly. And that's, if you don't, then you're not looked at as being truly about your race. You've lost some connection to the identity, the collective unconscious that we operate on, right? And even so, now what if I'm walking to a job interview? I'm walking to conducting one of the best business deals I want to get done. I've been working to for the last 20 years, and somebody cut me off and says, yeah, nigga. And then I got the chance to walk in and do my business that I've been working towards, or address this person here. And if you don't have control of who you are, you're going to address that person there. That's how you've been trained and conditioned. And you expected to do that without even thinking. Like, that's the appropriate action. Anything outside that is contrary to your identity. And that's where I think that getting rid of the racial construct for everybody is going to help emerge you beyond just normal challenges of being human, period, that everybody has to deal with in the world. On top of that, you put a dynamic of, okay, well, now there's an even deeper element where race is involved. And now the other people, even within the racial dynamic. And so now our brains have to process all that And to me, that's just really noise, because none of that's true. On top
Yeah.
of everything else we deal with as human beings, it's just constant noise that our brains have to filter out. And your soul is what is going to align to what's truly the truth. Your soul knows, I believe.
Yeah. Well,
And
King,
there's
we've been able to witness you go through that shift. You know, you've been on this 180-day journey for yourself, and I know that that started soon after going to Colombia. And you have mentioned before that that was one of the first times that you didn't feel that racial construct when you were connected there. So I'm curious how things have shifted for you just in the last 180 days. Like how is it different?
Well, it's completely different, actually. I mean, because prior to that, as you said, I was not only in my Black identity, but as they would say, I was, others would label me as radical Black in my identity. You know, and that Black Panther Black. You understand that out? But no hate. It wasn't any hate toward anything. It was just pride in my race and desire to uplift my race, because I felt and saw injustice. So how can I bring economic struggle, economic advancement and opportunities to that? So that was the governing thought, not anything about destroying anybody in that context. And so now the change is, as I've grown, everything was about race was shifting to now everything's about identity to me, because it's more than just race. And I've allowed myself to grow, but that's where most of my energy was at the beginning of the journey. Now it's more about, it's about identity, because it's deeper within that. Because like I said, even within the racial construct, you got to deal with your folks being triggered by if you assault their career, they feel need to defend that, or their religion, they need to defend that, or their political party, they need to defend that, or their sexual orientation, or their status, their immigrant, citizen versus immigrant. It's always something that we got to begin to have a reason not to like each other. Okay, we're from the same state, but okay, if we keep digging, did you like the Eagles coming up football team? Or okay, you like them too? But we're gonna find something that we can argue about, that we don't like each other if we keep digging deep enough, if we go by with your identities.
Some people even have that as a master skill. You know, they'll just wait for the moment to like bring that identity conversation forward.
And literally, like I said, it gives somebody complete control over you, like Pavlov with the dog.
Mm-hmm.
That one word, now you're going to act. And it's not going to be in your best interest.
You're going to react.
It's their trigger word, or trigger whatever. I would love to take this this picture down the streets, a crowded street, and just show random people and just be like, do you identify with this? If so, how? Or, I mean, but maybe that's a leading question. Maybe there's a better question. Just being curious, say, what do you think of this picture?
Exactly. Don't give them any context. They don't just be whatever their brain phantoms up.
Yeah, I'd love to see the reactions. I think that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I finally got the song queued, so if y'all want to hear the song, I can play
Absolutely.
Let's hear it.
So we're gonna go into that, and we'll be.
This is not music. Gratitude for feeling this. This is a frequency. I wrote every word, I created the beats. I'm the architect of the frequency. The AI is the instrument. I am not trying to fool you. My intent is freedom. This is my frequency signal for creative liberation. King. Someone gave you a name. Someone gave you a story. Someone gave you a box, and you've been living in it ever since. Let me ask you something. What is your identity? When I ask you that question, how do you answer? Do you answer with your race? Do you fold yourself into a color and call that alive? Do you answer with your religion? Do you wear a label like a shield because the truth feels too naked? Do you answer with your ethnicity, your country, your flag? Do you carry that weight on your back and call it pride? Do you answer with your career? Are you what you do? Or are you something deeper? Do you answer with your trauma? Do you lead with your wounds and wonder why you keep bleeding? To thine own self be true. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you discover who you are, you'll be free. Let me go deeper. Does your identity help you? Does it bring you peace? Or does it just bring you a team? Does it bring you joy? Or does it just bring you an enemy? Does your identity make you kinder, gentler, more understanding? Does it help you live? Does it help you love? Does it teach you to be loved? Or does it just teach you who to trust and who to fear? What does your identity do for you? To thine own self be true. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you discover who you are, yeah, you'll be free. Yeah. Now let me ask you the question nobody wants to answer. Who gave you your identity? Did you choose it? Or did the world hand it to you before you knew you had a choice? Does your identity make you a victim? Does it give you a reason to stay exactly where you are? Does it make you feel superior? Does it make you feel inferior? Does it separate you from others? Or does it call you home to something higher? Does your identity make you want to be the best you can? Or does it make you settle for the version they assigned you? Here's what I know. Your identity is not your name. Your identity is not your skin suit. Your identity is not your beliefs. Those are costumes, those are constructs, those are cages dressed as crowns. You are not your race, you are not your trauma, you are not your country, you are not your career. You are something that has never been named by any system that tried to contain you. This is life's greatest mystery, its greatest joy, its greatest discovery. And it cannot be found out there. It can only be found in becoming within. Look within, the answer is not in the mirror. The answer is behind the eyes that are doing the looking. You are your purpose, not the title, not the role, not the resume. You are what you do when no one is watching, when nothing is owed, when love is the only reason. Everything else, the race, the religion, the career, the country, those are descriptions. Roles you play, costumes you wear for the season you are in, but they are not you. You are what never changes. You are the frequency that remains when everything else falls away. You are the legacy that lives long after you are gone. That is your identity. To thine own self be true. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you discover who you are, you'll be free. So I'll ask you one more time. What is your identity? And this time, don't answer with what they gave you. Answer with what you know. This is what it means to be fully human. Ancestors, I'm broadcasting my signal. Ancestors, we call your names. Are you picking up?
I love that.
So good.
Thank you.
I think we should. I was thinking through this, like all the teachers that I had have always, in my yogic studies, have always said, ask the question, who am I? And it's so true. Who am I? But who am I? Like at one moment I'm a mom, one moment I'm a friend, one moment I'm a worker, one moment I'm whatever. I'm mad or I'm happy or so years ago I learned when one of my teachers would ask who I am, I couldn't come up with one thing ever. So I would just say I am all that is. Because we all are all that is in any given moment. And we're all connected. So I could, if somebody were in tune with their abilities, their empathic abilities, or whatever you want to label that, I could be more like King in one moment and more like Jess another moment and more like I don't know who another moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're really fluid. And we're multidimensional.
Which is fluid too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the song got to this point of like, we have a whole lifetime of choosing all of these identities to then, get to this point of like, I'm none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's like really great work in evolution of like having this idea of dying as light as a feather. Like if you could try on all these identities, but get to the last moment of like I'm actually none of those, and get down to like the nothing, which also is the everything. Like I am all that is, and I am none of that
I am
in the
nothing.
same, and both of those exist.
Yeah.
That's a duality. That's that ability to have two quantum superposition, have two thoughts. And when you can do that, see, we were told to only have one thought. Either it's black or it's white, either it's on or it's off, either it's yes or it's no. You always chose to choose one binary answer, but sometimes when you really are vibrating higher, you realize there's two. It is on and it is off.
It's both. It's
It's
like
both.
a coin. It's got a head and a tail.
Exactly. It depends on how you observe it.
Yeah,
If
your
you observe it, that's when it changes. But when you don't observe it, you don't have a description. And that's the energy that we all are until we now say, this is what this is. This is sound. This is etc. And then
I can. Yeah. No. Oh, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna end with my point with this is that again, I just really want to reemphasize the importance that I'm outlining with all this is that the choice is still yours to choose. And that's what I want people to walk away, if nothing else, walk away with that you have the power to choose your identity and not just live through it, the existence someone else gave you.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was wanting to say is that when I'm going through these moments, I have some pretty heavy moments, and I've had some very close encounters with death recently, and maybe it's right there tomorrow. Who knows? But that's for everybody. It's not just me going through this, what I'm going through. And for me to remember that that's not who I am. And to remember to let go of all of the identities, that's what really helps me. And when I do end up dying or transitioning or whatever you want to call it, yeah, I want that lightness, but more importantly, I want that peace inside of me. And if that peace means that I take on an identity to feel safe through that transition, then so be it. If that means that I let go of all identity for that transition, then so be it. And It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
And it's about feeling that sensation of home within yourself, that safe space.
Yeah.
Because that's what home really is for all of us, is finding that sense of just safety and contentment.
Yeah. And our own personal alignment.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that for, 8 billion people that we have on this planet, that's how many points of view there are
Yeah.
of how we can choose to identify.
And to honor that in those around you too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have your own, and to understand that, I have my own way and I'm configured this way because of whatever it was that configured me or continues to configure me. And then to be able to look at the person next to you and allow them to be different.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah.
That's
And I
key to
think
connection.
it is.
Yeah.
And I think in like the life journey, when we look at all the different identities, I can see for myself, there's many of these labels on this character that I have picked up and held and then released. We always have the opportunity to release an identity and choose newly. I think that's like the big breath of fresh air for me in having this conversation, because there have been identities that I've taken on that feel like a trap, and there's no way that I can ever leave that identity. And so I've lived enough life at this point now where I can speak confidently and say that's no longer true for me, that I know I can consciously choose my identity in each moment, every day. And I can guarantee that how I align with my identity is going to change.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get ready to bring our show to an end, ladies. And any last words you all want to say? Any parting words of wisdom to end the show on?
I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Sounded like that's what Jess was saying too.
Because it takes something. It takes someone to bring this conversation to the forefront. So thank you, King, for creating this image and for bringing this conversation of different ways that identity is othering us. I think it's brilliant.
Well, thank you. And I received that, but also thank you all, because again, you all are the pillars along with me in building this movement. When I call it a movement, it's getting folks to realize that once we release particularly the racial identity from both sides, then we can really begin to start trying to bring in DEI programs into a system that we see as unjust. We create a new system based off energy and frequency and vibration, and let people self-select out of that. You don't have to deny anybody. I think there's an art to othering, as we say. The title of the show is, and that art is othering, so it's not to harm. If you're othering to harm, then that to me is a problem. If you're othering to separate, just because that's not in alignment, I don't see that's an issue with that. People can have separate groups. Like, we can live in the jungle and you want to be separate from tigers that have access to you. You want to make sure you separate yourself from them. You're not going to just be totally in nature like that. So there's always going to have to be some form of separation. But even within nature, you still are not going to do anything to harm the tigers. You're not going to put them in a situation, or better yet, lions. You're not going to put them in a situation you kill them off because you're in harmony with them. You understand you just need to be mindful of how you deal with them. And that's all I'm advocating for at the end of the day is that if you choose your identity, but choose one that still operates and lets you live love as much as can and hate as often or as few as possible. So with that being said, we go ahead and wrap up today's show until next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Let's all find ways to be more fully human. Thank you.
Thank you.